G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We are returning the collaborations video, a fan favourite video on the channel from last year. A lot of you people enjoyed it, and of course I had to bring it back for this upcoming season where I bring on an AFL creator from every AFL fan base and ask them the predictions on where they think their team will place and how they think their team will go from what their head tells them and also from what their heart tells them. Interested to see what the difference of their predictions will be. Alongside that, it's also a very engaging way of bringing on board some top quality folk and creators across the platform. The season is really creeping upon us now, so more than ever, we are very heavily invested in hearing other people's opinions and predictions for this upcoming season. So alongside the returning creators in this video today from last year's edition, I must say I do have, of course, some new guests on the video today, and of course, make sure to check out all the creators involved in the video today. All top quality chaps who make some great videos across the YouTube and content creation scene. So with that said, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. It's pretty straightforward. We go in alphabetical order of each AFL club, react to the creators' predictions and give my thoughts on it. So let's start off with the Adelaide Crows, and of course I had to bring back on one of the best Supercoach creators out there of �𝐴𝐥𝐝 from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐝.
I think my head says there's expectation now, unlike last year, and I think we should finish between 5th and 9th, hopefully in the finals. And yeah, head and heart are aligned this year, so my heart's feeling the same thing. Expectations there. We've got, 𝐓𝐴𝐴𝐞, Brichelli, Soligo. We need these guys to take the next step, and I think they will. Dawson, first full preseason in the midfield, so excited for that. So big expectations for the Crows, and be shattered if they don't make the finals this year.
Okay, so first up, George, with some pretty reasonable predictions, I must say. I don't know, I feel like I'm a little bit surprised. Surely Adelaide fans with their heart predictions would be saying top 4 minimum. Highest scoring side last year. They could easily build the fortress at home as well, heading into this year. Exciting team to watch. But yeah, definitely what he had to say about the midfield can really take the next step this year. Dawson, his first now full preseason as a midfielder. Laird and Keys and some exciting young talents thrown there potentially like Rankin and Brichelli. If they can get that midfield mix right, because it's a little bit inconsistent last year, their midfield. I think they'll be a scary team this year. The defence as well is probably their most inexperienced area. They will need to get that structure right this year and down pat. Murray won't be back until the second half of the season, so massive onus for Brodie Smith to really lead the Lions. And of course the youngsters of Michael Lunny and Butts, and of course Ball Ace, and will Dan Curtin get thrown around there in his first season as well. But there is a lot to like about the Crows, and pretty fair enough predictions, I must say, from George. So next up, the Brisbane Lions had, of course, Supercoach with DR on last year, one of the top chaps of the community. But of course, ever since this guy did his face reveal, I had to bring on the main man of Egg Footy. Let's see what Eggwood has to say about his Brizzy Lions.
It's going to be interesting to see how we finish after the grand final loss. You never know how a team's going to respond to something like that. It was pretty close. We came within 4 points of a premiership, so you don't know if that's going to really destroy us or if we're going to use it as fuel. I think we'll do one better this year. History has shown that we have to lose one to win one. We lost the final, then we win a final. We lose a couple prelims, then we win a prelim. And now that we've lost the grand final, who knows? We now have a list full of young kids who now have grand final experience, which is really encouraging. So I see us making top 4 again for sure. And at least I see us making a prelim. I would like to see us make a grand final, but I see us getting back to the prelim final at the very least. Maybe I'm being optimistic. Maybe I'm being delusional. Who knows? Only time will tell.
Bonus points for that fire display as well. Always one of my favourite things to look at whilst watching Egg Footy videos, might say that. But yeah, his predictions, very bullish and completely fair enough. Let's be honest, I think Brisbane fans are definitely hungry after so close of a grand final performance last year. List is prime. He said it perfectly. The young kids have now got that grand final experience. Will definitely help them this year. They didn't lose a game at home last year, so you feel like they'll continue that. Exciting team to watch, of course, as well. And yeah, really head and heart predictions for Lion supporter, including Egg Footy, should definitely be top 4 in the sights again on hopefully winning the Holy Grail in 2024. So there we go. There's the Brisbane Lions. Some pretty exciting predictions there from Egg. So next up, we do have the Carlton Blues, and just like last year's video, of course, I have to bring back this fella, everyone's favourite Englishman in the AFL scene of Pommy and Oz.
With that heart, you know what, I'm going to go full nuff and have total egg on my face at the end of the year. But I genuinely think we finish second on the ladder. I think we'll be the runners-up. And I think we're grand final bound. Do I think we win it? Probably not. But I think we'll get into the grand final, lose a tight one, but the experience is there. My head tells me that this is the hardest year probably to win it ever. I think there's 14 sides who you could make a very good argument to be in the 8. And I also think that 6 of them 14 only need that little bit of luck, that little bit of chance to win it. And we've seen teams do what Carlton do, go nearly all the way and then bomb. And Carlton still, for me, with my head, as a football side, as a sporting side, they have a lot to prove. So my head says that Carlton will finish 4th. And hopefully, as a bare minimum, we can repeat what we did last year and be one off the big dance. But it's all a lesson. It's all moving forward. And for all but 4 sides this year, I feel like you've got to be in it to win it.
Always enjoy what Pommy has to say. Pretty fair and reasonable assessment, really, on the Blues. And to be honest, I like how humble it is. He says he's going full nuff mode, but he doesn't even have his heart prediction of the Blues winning the flag. Like, come on, have you seen Twitter? All the Blues fans think they can win the flag this year. They certainly are in that range, and he put it well that it's probably around that 6 range of teams that can definitely win it this year. You just need a bit of luck. But yeah, head and heart, both in the top 4. Carlton are definitely in that range to be a top 4 side this year. Because it's Carlton, I think you might still have that feeling they could underachieve and maybe even slip out of the 8. But when they play their strongest, their spine is brilliant. Definitely a side with confidence behind them with a really, really supportive fan base. So I think they'll definitely be around that range. Really strong stoppage game. Can they get more from their smalls this year of the likes of 𝐓𝐿𝐿 and especially Motlop? 𝐓𝐚𝐞, I mean, can he get a 3-peat of Coleman's this year? They could have a slow start of the year without Wiedering, but if they're able to repeat that second half of the season, I think the Blues will definitely be up there again. And now for the Pies, of course, Swoop Luke is returning. Last year, he did have his head and heart for the flag, so credit to him. Let's see if he'll be going with back-to-back predictions in this video today.
Every team is going to get better this season. The Blues, are looking good. Melbourne have got a point to prove. Brisbane have got a point to prove. The Giants are, they could be whatever they want to be. Sydney, every team is going to be hard. 2024 is going to be probably one of the hardest seasons to win the flag. But I can't see why Collingwood just can't go back-to-back. And, back-to-back for the first time in, 80 years or something. Very excited for this season. But my boys, hand on heart, my head is telling me, my heart is telling me, we're going back-to-back.
And of course, as expected, Swoop, very confident once again for the premiership, and he's going with the back-to-back predictions for his head and heart. And I really can't fault that, to be honest. I mean, they were on cloud 9 when they did witness that premiership. They were the best team last year and just so mentally tough in those close games, and that really what gives them that edge. Statistically, they might not be the greatest team to win the flag, but they just have that important edge of that mental toughness. They're always in games, and I think they will really repeat that this year. They'll for sure be up there in 2024. They'd had some nice recruits as well. 𝐓𝐿𝐿 𝐎𝐿𝐿 at the club, that's a really good acquisition. Adding into that forward half firepower, they've just got so much talent in that area. I mean, can we see some breakouts from some other players? Finn McRae, how the oldies go with Howell and Pendlebury and side bottom. If those important cogs can stay out on the track and not get injured, they'll for sure be a great chance of going back to back. But I like the little hat change there from Swoop. That was clean. I do rate that. Okay, so now for the Essendon Football Club, just like last year, did bring on board again Herbertron. Let's see what he has to say about his Dons.
So 2024 for Essendon is going to be another developmental year, another year to be patient. We've heard it all before, but this time I actually believe it, and this time I'll actually buy into it. We actually know where we're going now. We actually know where we're at. My head tells me we'll finish around 11th again, just because we'll do the usual thing. We'll beat teams we shouldn't beat. We'll lose to teams we should beat, and we'll just end up around that middle rung again. Now, my heart tells me that everything will go well. Caddy will come through and have an instant impact. Nick Martin playing off the back flank will set the world on fire. So we could scrape into the finals. We could finish 7th or 8th. We could play an away final against an interstate team and lose by 10 goals. Anyway, That's what I think. That's my predictions. Go footy, go Essendon, all that stuff.
So Herb there with his Essendon predictions. I must say, pretty fair enough. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. I think that's pretty much how many Essendon supporters are feeling. There is still that quite high amount of doubt that there might be another mediocre team again this year. But I mean, with their list, I do definitely agree with that. They probably are starting to head into that right direction now. Got some great young talent, recruited really well. Are they able to scratch the surface this year, though? Are players with that really high potential able to really break out this year? Because they probably lack a lot of those top-end kind of players. But yeah, with his hard predictions, I mean, if Caddy can go off, if they can really build some consistency, I think a home or even away elimination final is definitely potentially on the cards for Essendon this year. And a smoky to push for the finals. So there is what Herb had to say. It's now for Fremantle. I have got on board once again 𝐎𝐿𝐿𝐞𝐿. Let's see what he has to say about his Dockers.
My heart this year is saying that the Dockers finish 6th. I'm diving straight into it because I want to put to bed all these claims that Freo, they're not up to it anymore. They're washed. They're going to finish bottom 4 because I think our list is in a really, really good shape. We've lost Lachie Schultz. Yes, that's devastating. Yes, he was my favourite player. Yes, that absolutely shot me in the inside. But I think we've got some really, really good candidates that are putting their hand up over this offseason. Cooper Simpson could be the steal of the draft. I've watched him a bit in training and he looks unreal. He can play through the middle of the ground, but also as a small, crafty forward, he looks brilliant. You've then obviously got Tom Emmett, who towards the back end of last season got 3 or 4 games with the Dockers, and he was, to say the least, dominant against Hawthorn and I believe Port Adelaide. He was absolutely superb, and I think one of those two, a Simpson or an Emmett, will probably fill that void. And then I think the midfield depth, that is absolutely top-notch. You've got Hayden Young, who's starting to roll through there. All reports are suggesting Nat Fyfe is going to as well. And then the wings, it's a wing headache. Do you put Erasmus? Do you put Johnson? Do you put Sharp? How does Will Brodie or Jager O'Meara fit into the midfield? There is so much depth that I think we can choose from. The big question is, do we get that mix right? I think we do. And if we do get it right, we'll be a top 8 team. Or we'll put to bed these rumours that we're going to finish bottom 4, because we're not. And then you've also got the forward mix that needs to be sorted out. Josh Tracy, Nat Fyfe, Matt Tabiter, Jai Amos. Where do you go with that? How do you get the mix of the talls and the smalls? Luke Jackson, didn't even mention him. There's a real issue on what mix we go with all over the ground, and that is going to be the big debate. And I just hope we can get it right. My head says we're going to finish 10th. I won't lie. I think we're good. I don't think we're there yet. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. My heart says 6th. My head says 10th.
Well, okay, so some massive predictions there from 𝐎𝐿𝐞𝐿. Really confident in what he had to say. And I think from a neutral point of view, we all can agree Fremantle have a terrific young core. I mean, you look at the spine, you look at those core players, Sarong, Brayshaw, Hayden Young, Darcy, Jackson, Jai Miss. I mean, geez, this is a really strong core to build a team around. And of course, we all know they made finals. They won a final in 2022. Bit of a down year last year with a bit of an identity crisis on how they played. So if they can get back to building a fortress at Optus, and I mean, he talked about the personnel really well. Got some exciting names across all areas of the ground. The loss of Lachie Schultz does put a question mark on their forward line, but Nat Fyfe, he did mention him. He's been going really well as a midfielder that can also float forward. Tom Emmett is definitely a one under the radar. He had some great games, as 𝐎𝐿𝐞𝐿 said, in the back half of that season. And Jai Miss, I mean, I've been talking about him plenty of times on the channel too. He could definitely kick over 55 goals this year. So I am myself quite bullish on Fremantle, but 𝐎𝐿𝐞𝐿 makes a great case there that they could be a smoky chance to push into the finals. But this is how we look at every bottom 10 team from last year. You can see the upside of them, but 𝐎𝐿𝐞𝐿, yeah, really confident predictions. Love to hear what he had to say. They're going to be interesting to watch this year, definitely, the Dockers. So now, the next team up we do, of course, have the Geelong Cats. And just like last year, got on, of course, the great man of Ben from the Hoops crew. Let's see what he has to say about the Catters.
What's my head telling me? I think the Cats will probably finish 4th or 5th with maybe 17 wins. I think we'll probably get as far as a prelim and then bomb out there. Don't think we can go all the way. At least that's what my head says anyway. My heart says Cats 18 wins. Probably will appear in the grand final. Might just fall short, but I think we're going to go... My heart's telling me I think this is going to be a good year. I think Max Holmes is going to win a Brownlow medal. Yes, you heard it here first. And Patrick Dangerfield will become a premiership captain.
Okay, that is some absolutely huge predictions there from Ben on his Caddies. His heart telling him the Cats can go back to the promised land in 2024. I mean, from a neutral point of view, this is definitely quite different predictions from what we've seen a lot of people having Geelong outside the 8. I even made the bold call. I think they'll either make finals or make the bottom 4. They're probably... they're a hard team to gauge, but Ben very confident, even from what his head tells him. They're a side that's going to be returning to the top 4, and there's always a team outside that top 8 that pushes into the top 4 the next year. It definitely could be Geelong. They were one of the highest scoring sides outside the 8 from last year, boasted one of the best percentages. We all know still play very well at home. A forward half just with so much talent, and now with Sean Manor added into the mix with, Brad Close and Stengel and Ollie Henry off the back of 41 goals. Cameron and Hawkins, can they be fit? The big one is the injuries. If they can get those important core of players, especially the over 30-year-olds like Guthrie, Blitzarves, Dangerfield, etc., out on the park fully fit, they're definitely a chance to even push up into the top 4 from what his head is telling them. So, yeah, I like the bullish calls there from Ben from the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 crew. So now we move on to the Gold Coast Suns. Last year, I was unable to bring on a guest, but this year we do have one on board today. He's the owner of the Gold Coast Suns fan page on Instagram. Let's see what Hudson has to say about his Suns for 2024.
So I thought just quickly to give my prediction a little bit of context, I'd go through a couple of the key questions that we as a footy club are going to have to answer this year, and how well we answer those questions are really going to ultimately impact how good of a season we end up having. So I think first for us, it's about how quickly we can adapt to and overcome the growing pains that we're inevitably going to have. We've got a new coach, new game plan, new training methods for some, it's new roles and partnerships. It's a lot of change for a club that over the last 5 years has had relative coaching stability, and how we respond to all this change is going to be very, very important to how our season plays out. And then I think secondly as well, it's about how we respond to the increased pressure that we're going to have both internally and externally. I think it's no surprise that there's going to be a lot more media coverage and scrutiny on the Suns this year, and as a Suns fan, I'm actually very keen for it. I very much welcome it. But as a playing list, that's not necessarily something that they've had to deal with before, and that coupled with the very real and genuine expectation from internally within the club that this list is going to be competing for finals either this year or next year, and I mean for flags within the next 2 to 3 years. It's a very real expectation put on the club that just historically has never actually been there. So how we respond to that is very heavily going to influence how our season plays out, and it'll honestly be pivotal. So yeah, with all that being said, I think that a lot of the teams this year will be quietly confident that they'll be able to make finals. I think that you can make reasonable cases for about 16, and it's really going to come down to A, injuries, and B, how well each team is insulated against said injuries. So yeah, I don't know. I could see us finishing as low as 16th, like we just finished 15th. We could finish that low, or we could finish as high as 3rd if everything goes well. I truly believe that. If the forward line's clicking, the back line is the midfield, if it all clicks, we're going to be very good. So yeah, I really could see a floor of 16, a ceiling of 3rd. I guess logically that means I think we should finish about 9th or 10th, but I don't know. I really do think we make finals just with how well insulated we are against injuries, and we've got a very favourable fixture. I think we just do it. So I don't know. With my head prediction, I'm going to say that we finish 7th or 8th, and with my heart, I'm going to say that we finish 4th, 3rd or 4th. I think that if we get it all clicking, that this team is going to cook. This team is going to cook.
So another creator with some very confident predictions. The Suns never made the finals before, but this year, minimum, his heart is telling him, and his head is saying that they're going to be a finals team in 2024. And I think this is why I really wanted to bring on a Gold Coast supporter, because I think from a neutral point of view, we do have that belief and we do have that confidence from what we've seen. They can definitely make the finals, but we just need to see it first. But from a Gold Coast point of view, like Hudson has said, there's just that bit more confidence in, what he knows about the team better than us, that they can definitely challenge for a final spot this year. And he also put it perfectly that there's also really 16 teams that can genuinely make the push. It all comes down to injuries and everything. The first year coaches of Damien Hardwick they're definitely the exciting factor. He is a coach that can really bring the best out of players, play plays to their strengths. So I think we're going to see a massive change in terms of effort and execution, and as well as for the pressure numbers. numbers for Gold Coast. And also just really like the detail in what he said about his opening points of the Suns. How will they fare with the first-year coach after so long with 𝐎𝐿𝐴 𝐿? And yeah, how will they go with a bit more of a favourable fixture as well? So they're definitely going to be an interesting team to watch. I'm definitely hopeful if they can make the 8 for the very first time. Cheers again for Hudson for getting on board. And now for the other expansion club of the GWS Giants. Got a new guest on board today. You've probably seen this chap floating around the GWS cheer squads week in, week out. We have got on board 𝐓𝐡𝐞. Let's see what he has to say about the Giants.
Now, I would like to say, my head is telling me the Giants will probably just scrape in the 8 this year, maybe sort of the 6 to 8 range, but my heart is telling me we can go all the way. Come on.
Short and sweet predictions there from 𝐓𝐡𝐞, and I love what he had to say from what his heart says. The Giants winning the flag in 2024, definitely a possibility. You know, how they played last year was just awesome to watch. Their best stacked up against the very best in the competition, and sort of that 2016 to 2019 ability returned of that orange tsunami, and they just moved the footy end to end so well. A very good side and rebound 50, so they get it out there really well. You know, Hogan, Riccardi, they had some great breakouts from those forwards last year. Can they continue to get that more in 2024? Their head was a bit more reasonable, around the 6 to 8 range. The Giants do have a very hard fixture this year, and because last year just felt like such an exhausting season, winning all those games away from home, maybe they could struggle a little bit. Maybe we're getting a little bit overhyped of their back half of the season, because it was just pretty much flawless. Very unlucky not to make the grand final last year. But yeah, really reasonable predictions there from 𝐓𝐡𝐞. I think finals at a minimum, and the Giants pushing into the top 4 and winning the flag, definitely on the cards in 2024. And now moving on to the Hawthorn Football Club, representing the Hawks today, just like last year. Of course, I had to bring on 𝐷𝐿𝐴 Talks Footy again, one of the best small creators out there. Let's see what he has to say about the Hawks.
My Hawks have been decimated by injury in the intra-club, but I'm telling you what, it is going to be a year of improvement. However, my head and my heart are having an optimistic versus pessimistic battle. My head is maybe a little bit more pessimistic, that says the Hawks might finish around 15th, but my heart is still optimistic, thinking 12th would be amazing. And a cheeky prediction for free, if the All-Australian team want to do what they did last year and put blokes in their actual positions, Dylan Moore, a potential smoky for a half-forward spot in the team, and I think he makes the squad.
Always enjoy what 𝐷𝐿𝐴 has to say. Some pretty level-headed predictions there for his Hawkers. No pushing up into the top 8 in his opinion, unlike a few other bottom 10 predictions we've seen from a few other creators in this video so far. But pretty reasonable predictions, I must say. The Hawks just decimated by injuries the last week or so. Denver Granger's Barras going down, blank out with the ACL. I think Scrimshaw's out for a bit as well. Sicily probably unable now to play that pure third tall intercepting role, so he's going to have to probably play a bit more of an accountable role. Probably, I think, with the Hawks, when you look at them, the start of the season, they might start off slow and sluggish, maybe just like last year, but this is, you know, personally, this is the team I see that can really build as the season gets going, because they've got some terrific young talent. It's a midfield that can stack up to the best when they do play their best footy. I'm pretty sure they were a top 4 clearance side last year. If you've watched my bowl calls video, I think 𝐿𝐴 can take the next step. I also loved his prediction on Dylan Moore being a smoky All-Australian. I think in the position he does play as that high half forward, it's hard though, because you have to have a really high level of production, probably float in the midfield a little bit more than what he does. But you know, he's a clean player, an inside 50, can hit the scoreboard too. Really, really underrated for how the Hawks go. And that forward line alone, so much talent in there. I mean, can Nick Watson kick 40 goals and win the Rising Star? Can Ginnivan be one of the recruits of the year? You also can't forget, of course, of Bruce and Gunston. Them two combined are very top quality players. Mitch Lewis as well. I mean, the sky's the limit for him. So there's just so much to like with the upside of the Hawks, but at the same time, they're still young, they're still inexperienced, and that back line is a bit of a worry personnel-wise. So a slow start to the season could be on the cards, but yeah, some pretty reasonable predictions there for 𝐷𝐿𝐴. I still think probably bottom 6 is around the range, but hey, there could be a team that pushes up a bit, but out of the bottom 4, I think definitely is a chance. So yeah, always enjoy what 𝐷𝐿𝐴 has to say, and now we move on to the Melbourne Football Club. And of course, one of the biggest AFL creators out there, of Kane McDonald, had to get him on once again for this video today. Let's see what he has to say about the D's.
I'll go with my heart early. The Melbourne Footy Club lost a qualifying final against the Collingwood Football Club by kicking a bit. They lost the semi-final by less than a goal. I know there is a lot said about the D's forward line issues. We just need one more goal a game. Can last year's Melbourne Football Club transition into 2024 and find one extra goal a game? I think we can. So when I go with my heart, I believe the D's can have another solid year and finish top 2. That is what my heart is saying. The defence is impenetrable. The contest is the best in the comp. Can we find one extra goal a game? When I go with my head, though, Riles Macca, a lot of negativity about the culture. A lot of outside noise about this Melbourne Football Club. Josh Jenkins tipped us for 11th. People are tipping us to slide. The Melbourne Football Club are the most obvious team to slide this year. And to be honest, all the negativity, everyone writing us off has infiltrated my brain. And I think if I'm going with my heart, I say top 2. And if I'm going with my head, I reckon 6th is where the Demons will land. We've got some issues up in the forward line with injuries. I think Harrison Petty can be a very consistent contributor in an AFL forward line, but he's injured. And Jacob Van Rooyen, it's a big burden to carry for a 20-year-old. Cozzy misses round 1 because of the suspension. Shane McAdams sore. It's not looking good. So heart says we can finish top 2. Brain gets sucked into the negativity that I've seen from the industry and says we'll finish 5th or 6th.
So Kados there with some pretty detailed predictions, and all these predictions and people having them, slide out of finals and people writing them off. Definitely could be on the cards with all the drama that is, of course, happening off the field. But, on the field wise, a team that boasts so much talent and defense and contest, like Kados says, is definitely some of the best in the competition. And their system is very good behind the footy as well. So that really gets you far on the ladder, like it has the last few seasons. They've been a top 4 side for 3 years in a row now. So them retaining a spot in the top 4, in the top 2, like Kados had with his heart prediction, could definitely be on the cards if things get clicking. And of course, talking about that forward line, can Jacob Van Rooyen, like Kados said, be the man to lead it? Him at 20 years old, maybe, maybe not. Did, of course, talk about Harry Petty. I mean, him in the back half of last year for those few games, I think it was like, he kicked like 10 goals in 2 games. He looked really good, and then he got injured with a long-term injury. So if he can come back and, really pose as a threat once again, and Melbourne just to get that forward line right, they should be a team that's at least making the 8. But I think ultimately it is about how Melbourne will bounce back from 2 years in a row of straight sets exits. That can really hurt a football club, but, they are still, talent-wise and personnel-wise, a team full of seasoned veterans, and definitely will be a great chance to push back into the top 4 if they do get things clicking. So yeah, really like the detail on Kados' predictions. We'll now move on to North Melbourne, and just like last year, I've gotten on board once again Big J from the Centrebouts.
North Melbourne, 2 predictions. Where's my heart? Where's my head feel? My heart reckons North Melbourne, if everything goes okay, we get a couple of cheeky wins, few of the players kind of live to their potential, I think North Melbourne could probably get, let's say, 12th or 13th on the ladder. Still some wins for some teams. Now, looking at my head predictions, well, they're still a young team. They're still growing. Cherry probably isn't that good of a ruckman yet. I'm going to predict 15th on the ladder this year.
So Big J with some pretty good predictions from a North Melbourne perspective. Him seeing the Kangas push out of the bottom 4, or at least bottom 2, he can definitely see in 2024. And I mean, when you look at the good, there is definitely a lot to like. Alistair Clarkson now 2nd year at the helm. If he can get a full year of coaching under this young team, I mean, they could definitely pick up a few more results. The back half of last year, I like to look at as well. The last 6 weeks, I thought they played really good football. Usually when teams play a good block of footy from the back half of last year, that can translate into some better footy the next year. So I think them pushing out the bottom 2 and getting more wins is definitely on the cards. And we all know, of course, they're a side blessed with some young talent, especially in that midfield. And they were a midfield group last year that were able to challenge and be a thorn in a lot of good team sides last year. They, when they play their best, they can actually be quite a good damaging clearance team. And also their forward line with Nick Larkey leading the lines, can he potentially win the Coleman this year. That would be a very good sight to see. Cherry, how he goes his first year as the solo ruck. It's now a few years into that rebuild. So for me, North Melbourne with the young talent they boast, probably the only way is up. So Big J with his head saying they can be a team that might sit on the verge of 15th or maybe pushing out the bottom 4. But what his heart says, getting more wins and pushing into a mid-table side, it's quite optimistic. But if they get things right and if they can somehow hold down that defence line, because geez, Arden Core, Toby Pink, Charlie Comben, it's not the names that makes you think it's going to be a formidable back six, but if they are able to just really improve that winning culture and just improve their confidence, because that's what really lacked them last year, they could definitely get a few more wins. But yeah, I like the optimism on Big J for his Kangaroos. So now for Port Adelaide, just like last year's video, of course, had to bring on Anthony from the pair.
I'll firstly go with my heart. I'm thinking premiership, 20 years since we won our last one in 2004, and what a better way to celebrate that by winning another one, and hopefully give Travis Bloke the premiership that he deserves. And yeah, it's going to be a great year, I think, overall, celebrating 20th anniversary. And yeah, hopefully we do that and win a premiership and just knock everyone else off and go undefeated. My head, on the other hand, is still thinking top 4. The Salva Radaglia, Brendan 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐥𝐝, Jordan Sweet and the Barnes Soldo recruits have been amazing. Another year of Jason Horne-Francis having a pre-season, a full pre-season as well. He went over and travelled with Boki on his pre-season camp, so he's looking mint. Captains Connor Rozee and Zach Butters as vice. It's going to be leading us into a young, new direction. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm confident. We just got to do it in finals. Just win a final, Ken. Win a flag, Ken.
Okay, so Anthony from the pair, really like his predictions, just fully confident that this side will retain their spot in the top 4. There's always usually that team in the top 4 that the next year they could drop out of the 8. A lot of people having Port Adelaide as that team, but Anthony really confident in what he has to say. Heart being they could win the flag and go undefeated, but still head top 4, and definitely that's the chance. I think the young crop that Port Adelaide own, especially in that midfield, is seriously damaging. And you know, Horne-Francis, like he said, second year now at the club. I have said this in a few of my previous videos. I think he can really take the next step this year and really build on his game. Butters and Rozee, you know, Rozee 2 years in a row now of All-Australian Blazers. The new captain now signed a massive deal. I think he's going to be huge. Willie Rioli is the small. Can he get more output? We had some great games off the back half of last year. Geordie Artis returning from injury. How will he go on that lineup alongside, you know, Todd Marshall and also Finn Layson and also Charlie Dixon? It's about getting that forward half mix right, I think. And the recruits as well could definitely help them build as a stronger team in their 2024 campaign. They pretty much made the top 4 last year without a genuine ruckman. Lysett out injured. They're throwing 𝐓𝐡𝐞 and Hayes through there. But Ivan Soldo, who had some great games across his time at Richmond as a solo ruck. When you've got Radaglia pairing him up with 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴, that could be a really dangerous duo in that back half. So yeah, there's a lot to like about Port Adelaide. Like the optimism and confidence from what Anthony had to say. And next club up, the Richmond Tigers, had to of course bring on the top chaps of Footy A to Z on board again for this year's edition. Let's see what they have to say about the Tigers.
This year, my heart has me hoping that we might emulate something like the Giants last year, you know, get a new coach with some fresh ideas and kind of top up what is the remnants of a talented list with some hungry new players and hopefully what's looking like a bit more of a dynamic kicking game plan. If that all comes together, I've kind of got that romantic optimism that we might make a bit of a push for finals, play some good footy, beat some good teams, but maybe be a little bit inconsistent across the course of the season. My head can see us doing a similar thing, but falling on the other side of finals and maybe finishing in that kind of like missing out on finals kind of tier, maybe like 12th or something like that. I do think we have the talent to avoid bottom 4, although I think a lot of that will hinge on injuries as it kind of did last year as well. Overall, I'm more just hoping that we're going to play an inspiring brand of footy this year, and even if the wins aren't kind of on the board, then hopefully we can see that we're heading in the right direction under 𝐓𝐿𝐴 and developing some hopefully future stars.
So Zach from Footy A to Z with some really good predictions in Richmond's perspective. I like that. I like with the heart prediction that he thinks they can emulate sort of the Giant season from last year with the first year coach and push into a final smoky chance. Like a few other creators have said in this video today, and really in general, I think we all know there's probably apart from North and West Coast, there are genuinely 16 teams that can make the push into finals. It does come down to injuries, like Zach did say, and as well as Richmond's depth might not be as good as other teams, and also their youth as well is probably one of the more inexperienced groups in the competition when comparing it to other teams. So yeah, they'll definitely have to be good in terms of injuries, but it's a side that still boasts a lot of talent. Dusty Martin, Shea Bolton, he could be an All-Australian once again this year, of course. Can Lynch be fully fit? He's going to be huge, definitely as well. But yeah, it's really a bit of the unknown, I think, for the Tigers this year. You could definitely see them as a neutral perspective, a neutral point of view in the bottom four, because they probably could be a team on the slide, but they are a very competitive side and for sure will be a thorn in a lot of good team sides this year, because just that competitive brand they always do play. I mean, they played a very good practice match against Melbourne. That could translate into some good success for them in 2024. But yeah, I like that hard prediction there from Zach, I must say. Smokey to be one of the biggest surprises in 2024 could be on the cards if everything falls into favour. So now the next team up, we do have the St Kilda Footy Club, and just like last year, I have to bring on, of course, the great man of Cardman once again for this year's edition.
Now, using my head, I have changed my mind up a little bit, but I actually think the Saints just sneak into the 8, so I have an 8th position for the Saints. I know a lot of the experts and pretty much everyone really, if they're picking a side of the finalists last year to drop them furthest realistically or fall out the 8. The Saints are the majority of the bunch, to be fair, and I can see sort of why. We've had uninspiring games, to be fair, against like West Coast, Hawthorn, the lesser light clubs, but realistically, if we're going to play uninspiring against those clubs and still find a way to make finals with injuries, you know, to players like Max King, and the fact that we've brought in players that I think are going to fill in roles such as Paddy Dow in the midfield and Liam Henry looks pretty good. And as well as our recruits in the draft, I actually think the Saints, there aren't really any excuses to be worse. And I think we can clean up a few things. We seem to be very fit and firing this preseason, really, like David King believes so. I think the Saints shouldn't have any problems, hopefully at least competing for finals. So I think they'll finish 8th. My heart, though, season finishing a bit higher. It's a bit of a tough one because I could say top 4. I think that's a little bit too optimistic for St Kilda. I think 5th, the home final. We'll go finishing 5th. We'll win against the big clubs. We'll win against Collingwood, Geelong to start off the season, get off to a good start. So I think St Kilda hopefully make finals this season. I have them 8th for my head and 5th for my heart.
Okay, so Cardman with his predictions for his Saints, and I must say right off the bat, the Saints always this time of the year very unpopular from, you know, the neutral point of view and the non-St Kilda supporter base point of view with predictions, because geez, you see a lot of them, including myself with my early predictions. You have the Saints easily outside of the 8. And look, I think we're all aware that their season last year was very impressive from what their expectations were, even with injuries and even with a few of the personnel issues. They still came out and had a brilliant season. Pretty much the top defence last year. Their midfield was a little bit inconsistent, but really was led by that strong defence. And they just got results at the right time of the year and just really hit that form in the back half of the year really well, knocking off Geelong, of course, in one of those late games too. How they replicate it this year, it is still a bit of an unknown, but Cardi put it really well. I think as St Kilda supporters, they internally know that they are a good enough side. And Cardi also makes a very good case with the circumstances they had last year. They really shouldn't be a team that should be worse heading into 2024 with the injuries and everything they had. Recruits as well, like you said, very strong. Paddy Dow, can he add more into that midfield mix and add a bit more of a dynamic edge? Because that's an area where they can definitely improve. Also, Liam Henry across the wings could add a bit of flair. David King saying they had some really strong signs in pre-season. So, again, it's a bit of a question mark because it's the Saints. But if they're able to replicate that strong defence, and especially if they can get a fully fit season from Max King and become a high-scoring side, because that's probably their biggest need if they want to become a damaging team and reach the heights of 5th and maybe top 4 from what Cardi's heart says and beat the top clubs. They need to be better in their forward half and be a bit more of a damaging team on the scoreboard. Then yeah, the Saints can definitely return into the finals. So yeah, like the optimism and I like the positive predictions from the card man. So now the next team up, the Sydney Swans, my favourite club of course. It's a collaborations video, so I can't participate, but I can only react. So just like last year, I've brought on one of the best American content creators in the AFL scene. Absolutely love this guy and his analysis. Let's see what Donny Hess has to say.
This is a fun one because I think both are going to be relatively close. My head says I think this is a finals range team for the Sydney Swans. I think some of the bring-ins for the team have been fantastic. When it comes to my heart, I think this is a potential grand finalist, potentially flag contender. We will have to see again.
So Coach Donny Hess with his predictions on the Swannies, and as a Swans man, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, to be honest. It's a team with the strong recruits, like he did say in the off-season, that can definitely be a team to retain their spot in the finals. And the heart saying the Swannies can return to the grand final. I mean, yes, please. Certainly is a chance. I mean, in my opinion, how I look at the Swannies is last year the issues were their inability to finish off games well, and geez, their midfield was quite poor. They were a bottom 4 midfield for clearance and also pretty much contests in general of contested possessions. So the recruits of Adams and Grundy will definitely help them. Grundy, very top quality ruckman. Swans haven't had a good quality ruckman in years. Adams is a much needed ball winner in Sydney's midfield, so I think they can have a big impact. Defensively, they work very well as a back six, the Swannies, so they move the footy really well. When they play their best, they stack up and play great against the top teams. So yeah, it's about can they make that jump and push back up in the top 4. Certainly could be the case. They have plenty of upside as well in their forward half, but yeah, Donny with some pretty favourable predictions that I do like as a Swannies man. With his head telling them they can be around that spot, they can challenge for the top 4, and the heart going all the way to the grand final definitely could be on the cards for the Swannies in 2024. So now we move on to the West Coast Eagles, one of the best creators out there, of course, in the YouTube scene of true footy. Had to bring him back on board, of course, for this year. Let's see what Jesse has to say about his Eagles.
In preparation for this video, I looked back at what I said in this exact video 12 months ago on this channel and realised that I said that the Eagles would finish between 8th and 12th. So I'm going to bear that in mind before making my 2024 predictions. So at the risk of embarrassing myself again, I'm going to say that my heart is telling me that the Eagles will get their act together in terms of fitness and start playing a cohesive brand, maybe accumulate a few wins at the back end of the season, and maybe finish as high as 15th. That's my heart and my optimistic view. My head is probably saying bottom 2. Bottom 2. I don't think my head is telling me that we're going to win the spoon again. I think we have more experience and maturity on the list, and if we get a decent run at it, we avoid going back-to-back on the wooden spoon. So what's that, a range of 15th to 17th? If the Eagles do worse than that, they are the ones that should be embarrassed, not me.
I must say, I love how Jesse reflected upon his predictions last year. I still remember that. Yeah, he was pretty optimistic on the Eagles being a smoky chance for finals last year, but that just came crashing down with one of their worst seasons in club history. But yeah, pretty reasonable predictions there for Jesse. And also what he said about the experience, having more experience in a few of those other younger teams around the mark. I could definitely see them achieve a few more wins if they can get it out on the park, because, you know, for example, Barras and McGovern, that's a pretty strong key defensive duo, stronger than probably like Aiden Core and Toby Pink of course, of North Melbourne. So when you compare that, if they can stay out on the park, I mean, 𝐓𝐡𝐿 apparently is training the house down as a full-time midfielder. He could be very huge. He is, of course, a high-impact player when he's out on the park. Tim Kelly, I think numbers-wise, had a career-best year. So it's going to be, I think, a combination of those those important core players, those veteran players, definitely assisting the young talent, because they now are starting to get some young talent coming across. I saw that 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐿 𝐎𝐿𝐿 apparently is feeling the best body-wise in years. Gimby as well. Can he have a consistent year in his second year of football? His body's looking very nice too. As well as that, Harley Reid trading from half-back. Probably going to be doing a rotation role alongside Duggan, another important player. So yeah, when you do look at the good, they do have personnel-wise players that still hold significant importance to the club. So if they can stay out on the park and definitely assist those young guns rising through, well, the Eagles can definitely get a few more wins this year. But yeah, pretty reasonable predictions there for Jesse. Let's pray they don't get completely decimated by injury again in 2024. So now, for the final club in this video today, the Western Bulldogs, and one of the fan favourites of the AFL community is, of course, the Bev Show. Let's see what he has to say about his doggies.
Where will the Western Bulldogs finish in 2024 according to my head? Well, they've gone through a bit of a review of sorts over the off-season. They've been given a nudge, a kick. I think that will be enough to see the Dogs return to finals. However, I've only got them sneaking into 8th spot, because that's what they always do. They either sneak in or they don't make it at all. So sticking with the common theme. The midfielders, we know, powerful, can't wait to see Riley Sanders playing for the Dogs. I think he's going to make a huge difference. We know the forward line is capable if they put it all together. It's just that back line that worries me. That's the concern. It was last season. Have they done enough to fix it? Time will tell. But where does my heart think the Doggies is going to finish in 2024? My heart is feeling ambitious. 3rd spot. The Doggies will finish in 3rd spot, according to my heart.
Okay, so the Bev Show to round out the video with some pretty confident Western Bulldogs predictions. They are a team of the unknown once again, like a few other clubs heading into 2024. We all know a team highly talented where if they can play their best and really get the most out of those, especially bottom 6 players on their list, well, they can definitely be a final side this year. And the heart predictions I like too. Bev, definitely what he said about the midfield, strong and powerful, we all know. Riley Sanders, definitely makes a great point about him. Rising star, definitely one of the favourites, of course. Apparently he's been training the house down, so I'm really keen to see how he'll go. Definitely makes, of course, a great point on the defence. That's probably the biggest worry because they were one of the worst teams last year, or the last 2 years now. They've been one of the worst teams in defending transition. The coach and the staff, personnel issues and all that dramas that's been going on. They have signed some new assistant coaches as well. Of course, they still have Bevo on board, but the new assistant coaches could definitely help them. I think Ash Hansen was one of them. He was key to their success in 2021. So the personnel changes in the coaching box could definitely be a significant influence if the Doggies do return to the finals. But yeah, I like the optimism for Bev. I mean, some pretty confident predictions for him for the Doggies returning into the 8. So ladies and gentlemen, there was the Creators Head versus Heart predictions video once again for this upcoming 2024 AFL season. As I say again, make sure to check out all the people involved on the video today. All top quality people who of course make some great stuff, and love to hear what they had to say about their clubs. Plenty of optimism, plenty of bold calls. That's what we love to hear with predictions. And yeah, I just like the overall positivity with pretty much every person that was on board today. Love what they did have to say, of course, about their teams. And yeah, it was fun to react to. So make sure to check them out. Make sure also to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video. It's a long ass video, of course, as well. This one will probably be almost 45 minutes long. But this is how the predictions are always done on the channel, and how they should be. Just some detailed, chewing the fat of some footy for the upcoming season. So hopefully you did enjoy, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.